mobility is entering its next big inflection point. Vehicles are becoming electric, driving is becoming increasingly automated, and AI is beginning to redefine how we move. But revolutions are never just about technology, they are about systems. Charging networks must expand, energy grids need to adapt, cities must rethink infrastructure. Because building the mobility systems of tomorrow requires transforming the foundations of today. As we accelerate toward this future, we must ask ourselves, are we creating new problems even as we solve the old ones? Because the real question may no longer be how fast we can get there, but whether we can get there sustainably. For India, the stakes are enormous, with a rapidly urbanizing population and rising demand for cleaner, smarter mobility. This transformation will require more than innovation. It will require systems that work at scale. The decisions we make now will determine whether mobility expands opportunity or deepens the divide. This is Auto Pulse, the conversation the world needs to have before the future arrives without us. Ladies and gentlemen, to discuss the Auto Pulse this evening, we invite on stage Vikram Gulati, Country Head and EVP Corporate Affairs and Governance, Toyota Kirloskar Motor. Vikram is as invested in corporate strategy as he is in sustainability. He offers a broader view of how mobility and governance are shaping the sector's transformation. Shubhranshu Singh, auto industry leader and brand strategist. A visionary marketer known for his brand acumen, Shubhranshu spearheaded a shift to online sales in a traditionally dealership-driven market for Tata Motors commercial vehicles. He is a columnist, speaker, thought leader, and acknowledged creator of category-leading brands and platforms.
Welcome, gentlemen. I request my colleague Diksha to take this conversation forward.
Good evening, everyone, and I would like to start by thanking all of you. You've been a phenomenal audience through a particularly long day, and I owe you an apology. Because if you've been reverse calculating what time you should politely sneak out of this room to beat the Delhi traffic, I'm sorry, you've already missed that window. So you might as well stay with us for a little bit longer and help us imagine something which is far more exciting, the future of mobility. And to do that, we have with us Mr. Vikram Gulati. He's the country head and EVP of Toyota Kirloskar Motor. We also have with us Mr. Shubhranshu Singh. He's an auto industry leader and brand strategist. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on WION World Pulse. A huge round of applause, guys. Come on. Now, before we start this session, can I get a show of hands? How many of you who are sitting here came to the venue in a car? No matter if you drove it or you took a cab. Okay, that's most of the room. And how many of you came here in a car which was electric or you use an electric vehicle often? Okay, we have a few early adopters. And hybrid, okay. And lastly, how many of you are convinced that you know what your next car is going to run on? Right, and this hesitation right here is the pulse of the, global mobility transition. And rightly so, because for the first time in a century, the progress is not happening in one direction. And when the future branches out, perhaps is the best way to start by looking at where we stand right now. And to do that, I would like to start with Mr. Gulati first. Now, Mr. Gulati, while many automakers are betting big on electric, Toyota has adopted a very different approach with investing in hybrids, flex fuels, along with EVs. Now, for someone sitting in the audience who simply want to know where the Indian auto industry is headed, how would you explain this multi-pronged approach that Toyota has adopted without, making it seem like Toyota is hedging its bets?
Well, thank you for having me. Well, here are some statistics to explain the situation. Currently, last calendar year, India car sales were around 4.5 million, 6% growth year on year. And currently, the kind of penetration we have, it's around perhaps 30 people to 1,000 who have a car. So with the pace at which we are growing and the kind of market we see ahead, the penetration of cars, the number of cars on the roads is going to increase phenomenally. Other point that we must consider is in India, the market is very diverse with very different needs that customers have. They're not uniform. India has its own unique strengths and challenges, which also includes the energy mix. In Toyota, we are basically looking at the end objective of decarbonization. Our goal is to achieve life cycle net zero carbon by 2050. If I just use some statistics for the financial year 24-25, that's when the full year numbers are available. India's energy import was $162 billion, $137 billion being in fossil fuel. And if you look at the energy consumption by transportation sector, it's around 20%, so you can safely say $35 billion. And if you look at the growth, the projection by IEA is given our growth that's going to happen. The energy demand by car segment itself is going to quadruple, which means there's going to be a huge amount of possibility of import on fossil fuels, carbon emissions, etc. We believe, therefore, that we need to move to sustainable mobility as fast as possible. And therefore, this is at the core of what we believe, that there would be multiple clean, sustainable technologies that would be needed to act now at speed and at scale.
Right, and while the technologies are evolving, another thing which is evolving just as fast, if not faster, are the expectations of the customer. And this is where I want to bring you in, Shubhranshu. You've been at the front lines of selling vehicles to two very different Indias, be it the Royal Enfield writer or the Tata truck fleet owner. Now, when you look at these two worlds, is there anything that the customer is saying that the industry is perhaps not listening to right now?
No, I think the basic customer inspiration remains consistent. They're looking obviously for a great machine, in a manner of speaking. They're looking at great performance. They're looking at real return for value. Indian consumers are amongst the sharpest and the most conscious value seekers in the world, which is why so many of the global leading brands have come to nothing in India, whereas domestic providers have done exceedingly well. But between two-wheelers, three-wheelers, passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles, there is therefore a commonality, including the ecosystem requirements like servicing, resale value, availability of finance, easy access and so on. I think the one critical difference is the personal preferences that drive a brand choice in let's say motorcycles or in passenger vehicles may or may not be as relevant in a B2B environment such as commercial vehicles, where every time the wheel turns, they are actually running a business. So the commerciality of it surfaces up much more, but it is not to say that they don't have a real emotional bond with the vehicle, because after all, they earn a livelihood from it. So I think across the world, there are commonalities. In India, the value equations are far sharper. The involvement of purchase is far higher, and the brute majority of our customers are buying finance before they buy the vehicle. So detractors are very many. First-time buyers and first-time users are also a huge number. So it's a very, very exciting market. And as Mr. Gulati was mentioning, the penetration is only 3%. In a country where 40 crore Indians are less than 20 years of age, 65 crore Indians are less than 32 years of age, and in a country where we sell 40 to 45 lakh passenger vehicles in a year, you can imagine what the headroom for growth is, and that's the opportunity that the whole world is looking at.
Right, and that's very interesting, because we understand in a market like India, buying a car it's never been a financial transaction or just a financial, decision per se. Because take, for example, the Vahan Pujan that happens when you buy a car. You have the ritualistic smashing of the coconut. You put on kumkum. So what we understand is that the Indian buyer has always had this very emotional relationship with buying a car. Now, when the conversations around the technology are getting more complex, the conversation cannot afford to be exclusive at this point. And so when brands communicate this shift, Shubhranshu, what is something that they just cannot afford to get wrong?
See, in my view, there is nothing called the average Indian consumer. The Indian numbers trick is so staggering that if you name anything as the average, you will probably be making a mistake. So you have to look at the segment in all its layers. There is the aspirational status seeker. There is also an aspirer who looks for affordability. There is also a struggler who wants to move on, from a cycle to a scooter, from a scooter to a small car, from a small car to a luxury vehicle eventually, if they do well in life. And very many times, the brand relationship is such that you are in many ways constructing your personality through purchase of the vehicle. As one person told me in a consumer visit in Bombay, that आपका घर हर कोई नहीं देखता, लेकिन आपकी गाड़ी तो हर कोई देखता है, because you are out on the roads with it. And now on top of that, as Mr. Gadkari was mentioning, there is an acute realization that safety, affordability, security for your family, and eventually also the commercial end life. Also, as Mr. Gulati will tell you perhaps better, OEMs are realizing much smaller share by unit sale of vehicles. There's a much larger ecosystem in life, whether it is, servicing, spares, insurance, or eventually even scrappage. That is a bulk of purchase value which extends throughout the lifetime. And in brand building in vehicles, the brand doesn't start when the engine starts. Actually the brand many times starts when the engine stalls, because your servicing, reliability, all of these things build a brand much more than the logo on the hood.
Right, and Shubhranshu mentioned reliability, which is also a key characteristic of a Toyota buyer. A typical Toyota buyer is traditionally pragmatic. He's somebody who thinks about reliability, about efficiency, and of course about long-term ownership. Now, today, when consumers are asking, are we betting on the right technology? And at this juncture, the infrastructure is still evolving, but the customers have to make that decision today. Now, when you look at the total cost of ownership, where do you think hybrids, EVs, and the conventional engines realistically stand for the consumer in India right now?
Oh, well, the advantage clearly is with the incumbent technology. There's no two about it, because the incumbent technology, which is petrol and diesel vehicles, have been around for 100 years. So, but this gap has closed very rapidly, as mentioned by the Honorable Minister. So it's no longer the kind of gap that used to be there earlier. This is because of multiple factors. It's also because of the technology evolution and the declining cost of key components in electric vehicles, like batteries, and the Honorable Minister mentioned that cells today are at around $55 to a kilowatt hour. It's around scale. It's also around the huge support that the government is giving to bridge the total cost of ownership. So for instance, electric vehicles today get a GST rate of 5%, which is the lowest, as compared to either 12 or the 40%, which is a special rate for large cars. In addition, states are also giving a lot of incentives. So that does tilt the balance towards making electrics that much more affordable, especially for people who have longer usage requirements. As we go forward and as the technology evolves further, these ratios will become better. Today, if you look at hybrids, hybrids are very practical. They are very convenient. They give you 60% of electric drive with the engine shut off, without the need for any charging infrastructure. But the electric powertrain in a hybrid is similar to that in EV, but the cells are much less. Battery is around 1.5 kilowatt hour as compared to perhaps 60 or 80 in a BEV. That gives it an advantage. But today, the way the policy is stacked, it is slightly at a disadvantage with regard to conventional petrol and diesel. But these are, transitional issues. Once that gets sorted out, it will definitely become much more affordable. And if you look at new evolving technologies like flex fuel vehicles, which all the OEMs have showcased, that is a powertrain which is sustainable, which doesn't require any new infrastructure, where the fuel is indigenous, and that can be, in my opinion, a game changer towards sustainability and self-reliance in energy going forward.
Absolutely. And the question is not just what to buy, it's also how to buy. And Shubhranshu, you took 25% of Tata Motors CV sales online. And this is a digital shift which we can't ignore. But what I'm curious to know that, is this shift only going to change how people buy, or also how they are buying it? And what is essentially driving this decision? Is it perhaps conviction? Is it aspiration, as you mentioned earlier, or it's pure economics at play here?
I think there is an overwhelming digitalization of life in all its facets. We consume information online, we search for information online. I have a 17-year-old boy, he does not even order pizza without checking rating. So to expect somebody to go in for a major decision like a passenger vehicle or a commercial vehicle without doing their due diligence. Now, cut to say 10 to 15 years ago, the very first contact was when you went to a dealership. You got a brochure, you got a test drive and so on. That is still critically important, but available information is excessive. So people do a lot of their due diligence, their comparisons, influencer commentaries, social media feeds, critical comparisons, etc. online. They also are therefore solicited online. They are a few clicks away from getting appointments, making contacts, or even opting for finance. So I think there is frictionless ease of doing business through digital means. But principally, I think the largest value segment that has emerged in the consumer journey is that of getting prima facie information. And now configurators, etc., make it so much easier for people to, tickle their imagination, that it's much easier to do it online than to go from dealership to dealership. And so therefore, I think it is ease and convenience. The second thing that has happened is data has made it much more possible for people to be pinged with, or to be addressed with the right kind of information. Earlier, digital advertising was broadly about spray and pray. Now I know that X has come once for this. I know the event cascade. They very often solicit information. So it's much easier to have a genuine CRM-style relationship with them, which was simply not feasible earlier. So I think digitalization is here to stay. And even digitalization after purchase. Online relationship after purchase is also a very large reality across the world. Most people don't realize, after financial services, probably automotive is the sector that has seen the deepest digitalization out of all industries. So much of data is being pulled that your experience overall is richer and much more digital in nature.
Absolutely, and data has unequivocally become, the latest currency, if we talk about that. But now it's time to shift gears and do a quick pulse check on the future of mobility. And gentlemen, I'm going to request you to be very sharp with your responses. We have a lot to cover in very little time. So let me put this to the both of you. It's 2035. A young Indian professional is buying their first car. Where do they buy it? What powers it? And does the brand even matter in the same way that it does today? Mr. Gulati, why don't you go first?
Well, definitely digital, different buying mode completely in terms of ownership. A sustainable and eco-friendly powertrain, that will be multiple choices to fit the need of the consumer. And what was the last one?
And would the brands matter in the same way as they do now? Would the consumer be just as brand conscious?
Absolutely.
All right. Shubhranshu, would you agree with that?
I would agree with him. I think electric powertrain, very digitally sourced. The brand will matter more, not less. But the brand will matter even more beyond the vehicle in terms of the ecosystem benefits and the relationship and the retention that it is able to have. Remember, there were three certainties of automotive industry. that somebody needs to own a vehicle, somebody needs to drive a vehicle, and the vehicle will be run on hydrocarbon fuel. In the next decade, all three will possibly not be mandatory.
That's a very interesting take. And now, Mr. Gulati, what's that one technology that you think the world is underestimating right now?
Honestly speaking, biofuels. I think that is something that is less spoken about. It has huge relevance for a country like India, which has huge endowment and potential for this. And the most exciting part about biofuels is that it could be a story of waste to wealth with biotechnology, the way it's evolving. So I see a future where second generation of ethanol being cost effective, available at huge discount as compared to fossil fuels at scale, and that could be a disruptor.
All right. Now, Shubhranshu, when it comes to autonomous driving, connected vehicles, software-driven cars, do you think India is ready to have the conversation around autonomous vehicle at this juncture?
I would think so. I think the pace at which technology is being ingested in India, India already has the world's largest subscriber base for ChatGPT. Now, who would have imagined 5 years ago that that would be the case? So I think when Indians see value, when they see a technological leap that improves life, the adoption can be very, very fast. Having said that, there are a host of conditioning benefits and supporting guardrails that need to be in place. But I think the technology, if it exists, if it's commercialized elsewhere in the world, it will be in India just as much as anywhere else in the world, I feel.
All right. And Mr. Gulati, we've spent the whole day trying to, track the pulse of change across innovation, across sectors. Now, what's that one thing the Indian auto consumer wants, but, no brand is giving it to them yet?
Well, that's a very difficult one. You have me. I mean,
Shubhranshu, would you like to have a go at it?
If he can't answer it, I think I'll struggle as well. But from a marketing point of view, I can say, can I imagine my vehicle? I think that degree of customization, we are still an assembly line operation. The degree of configuration is limited. And I think we are very much master plant to dealership to customer. I do see the possibility of much more customization at a hub and spoke level, and that's already happening in two-wheelers, for instance, not as much in passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles.
Absolutely. And now my last question to the both of you. If each of you could ask the government for one policy that would, transform the Indian auto sector overnight, what would each of you ask for? Mr. Gulati, why don't you go first?
Well, I would basically first of all ask for a policy roadmap that's stable. And second, I think the world is going towards the carbon as a currency, with CBAM coming in and world over, the carbon intensity of fuel being the element which is going to drive the automotive sector of the future. So if there's one policy that I would ask is, please base all your policies on the carbon intensity of the energy that the vehicle is using. It's very scientific. It's basically going to be the best way to attack climate change and decarbonization. So carbon-based, policies, whether it's taxation or CAFE or any other policy.
A very important one. Shubhranshu, why don't you take it?
I think policy stability, as he mentioned, is important. If the government would let us know what happens in the next 10 to 15 years as a firm calendar, it will liberate the animal spirits. But tax rebates are a major spur to growth, as we saw in the latest iteration with GST. Imagine it's a middle-class dream to own a car, and that has been the main driver. If you could get income tax rebate for buying a vehicle, why not?
Absolutely. And on that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on WION World Pulse and sharing your insights with us and also helping us understand that, the future of mobility is not just hedged on one technology taking the lead, but it is something that all of us have an active role to play in. We have choices, and ultimately it has to be the right choice that we make, sustainable, secure, and something with a long-term future. Thank you so much, everyone. You've been a wonderful audience. A huge round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. A huge round of applause. Thank you, Diksha. I request you to stay with us, gentlemen. I request Mr. Dinesh Garg, Chief Financial Officer, Zee Media, to please come up on stage and felicitate our guests. Can we have the mementos, please? This has been an insightful conversation, a deep understanding of where mobility stands at the moment in India and what we can expect in the near future. Sir. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you.